The old grandfather clock in the hall chimed midnight. Its sonorous declaration, usually a gentle lullaby for Elara. But tonight, it was a hammer striking against the anvil of her despair. She sat amidst a sea of unfinished dreams, canvases stacked haphazardly against the walls, brushes crusty with dried paint, tubes squeezed empty and abandoned, sketchbooks overflowing with brilliant beginnings that never saw a true end. This was her studio, a small, once bright room in her apartment. Now a monument to her potential, perpetually unrealized. Elara was gifted, truly. She saw the world in vibrant hues and intricate patterns, her mind a kaleidoscope of artistic visions. But vision alone, she had learned, was not enough. Her days were a meandering path of good intentions and scattered effort. She'd wake late, convinced the morning held no magic for her. Then drift through her mundane job as an office assistant, staring at spreadsheets, dreaming of landscapes. She'd return home, energized by a fleeting burst of inspiration only to be swallowed by the enormity of her task. A few passionate strokes, a moment of deep thought. Then the insidious pull of distraction, the endless scroll of social media, the comforting drone of the television, the lure of an easy takeaway meal. Each day ended with the same quiet ache in her chest, the bitter taste of self-reproach. She was 30 years old, and the vibrant artist she knew she could be was trapped beneath layers of procrastination and a chronic lack of follow-through. Friends, kind-hearted but often weary, would ask about her art. Almost done. She'd chirp the lie a little heavier each time. The truth was, nothing was ever truly done. Her beautiful, half-finished pieces were like promises she kept breaking to herself. One bleak Tuesday, a particularly soul-crushing day at the office, Elara stumbled home. Her boss had given her a meaningless, repetitive task. She'd spent hours feeling like a cog in a machine, her spirit slowly being ground down. Exhausted, she slumped onto her sofa, the familiar comfort of self-pity wrapping around her. She picked up her phone, scrolling through social media, a habit she knew only made her feel worse. And then she saw it. An announcement from Liam, an old art school acquaintance, who was proudly presenting his solo exhibition at a prestigious gallery downtown. His work, vibrant and full of life, filled her screen. Liam, who had once struggled more than her in technique, had now soared. A hot wave of shame washed over Elara, quickly followed by a cold, sharp stab of envy. Liam had done it. He hadn't just dreamed. He had worked. He hadn't just had talent. He had possessed discipline. She looked around her own apartment, at the disarray, at the dusty canvases, at the silent accusations of her artistic tools. The clock struck midnight again, a new day dawning, and Elara felt a profound, desperate weariness settled deep into her bones. This wasn't just about art anymore. It was about her life. Her life felt stuck, unfulfilled, and she knew, with a certainty that both terrified and energized her, that she was the only one who could unstick it. The next morning, Elara woke up not to the chaotic rush of a late start, but to the gentle glow of dawn filtering through her window. She hadn't slept much, the image of Liam's success and her own stagnant life having kept her awake. Something had shifted. The despair had given way to a quiet resolve. She wasn't sure how to begin, but she knew she had to. Her first act was small, almost insignificant. Instead of reaching for her phone, she reached for a pen and a small notebook she'd found under a pile of magazines. She wrote down 3 things she would do that day, no matter what. 1. Wake up at 6 a.m. 2. Clean her studio for 30 minutes. 3. Paint for 1. The 6 a.m. wake-up was a jolt. Her body protested, craving the warmth of the duvet, but her mind, for once, was firm. She made herself a cup of tea, sat by the window, and watched the city slowly awaken. It was peaceful, a kind of quiet she rarely experienced. This was her first victory. Then came the studio. Dust motes danced in the morning light as she began to clear the clutter. Old coffee cups, dried paint palettes, crumpled sketches. Each item felt like a tiny weight lifted. She organized her brushes, wiped down her easel, and for the first time in years, Her workspace felt like a place of creation, not just a storage unit for abandoned ideas. The act of cleaning, so simple, brought a surprising sense of clarity. The painting hour was the hardest. She stared at a blank canvas, her mind blank too. The old fears whispered, "Asterisk, what if it's not good enough? What if you waste your time?" But she remembered her promise. She picked up a brush, squeezed out some paint, and just started. Not with a grand vision, but with simple strokes, mixing colors, feeling the texture of the canvas. It wasn't magnificent art, but it was effort. And when the timer chimed, she felt a quiet pride she hadn't experienced in ages. This was how it began. Slowly, painfully, Elara started building her new life, brick by brick, habit by habit. Waking early became a ritual. Before work, she'd dedicate an hour to her art. After work, instead of mindless television, she'd return to her studio. There were days she failed. Days the alarm felt like an enemy. Days the canvas felt daunting. Days the lure of old habits was almost irresistible. She'd miss a painting session or sleep in, and the familiar spiral of guilt would begin. But this time, instead of giving up entirely, she'd allow herself to feel the disappointment. Then gently guide herself back on track the very next day. She started reading. Not novels for escape, but books about habit formation, personal growth, and the lives of successful artists. It was in one of these books, tucked away in a quiet library corner, that she found a quote that resonated with her like a deep bell. Asterisk, asterisk, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Asterisk, asterisk, Aristotle. The word struck her with profound truth. It wasn't about one grand burst of inspiration or a single masterpiece. It was about the daily, quiet, often unglamorous work. It was about showing up. It was about the habits. Discipline wasn't punishment. It was freedom. It was the key to unlocking the artist she knew she could be. This realization became her guiding star. Months turned into a year. Elara's once chaotic studio was now a haven of focused creativity. Her canvases, once abandoned, were now nearing completion, each stroke a testament to her newfound consistency. Her technique sharpened, her unique voice emerged, and her confidence blossomed. She painted landscapes that seemed to breathe, portraits that captured the soul, and abstracts that vibrated with emotion. She wasn't just painting. She was telling stories with color and light. Her life outside the studio transformed too. The early mornings gave her a sense of control and peace that permeated her entire day. She ate better, slept better, and felt an energy she hadn't known since childhood. Her mundane office job, while still not her passion, no longer felt soul-crushing. It was simply a means to sustain her true work. A temporary bridge to a future she was actively building. One evening, after finishing a series of paintings that spoke of resilience and the beauty of transformation, Elara felt a surge of courage. She carefully photographed her completed works, polishing her artist statement, and, with a trembling finger, sent an email to a gallery she admired, the very one where Liam had his exhibition. She expected a polite rejection, or perhaps no reply at all, but a week later, her phone rang. It was the gallery owner, her voice warm and genuinely intrigued. "Miss Vance," she said, "your work is remarkable. There's a depth, a consistency. It's truly compelling. We'd love to schedule a meeting." Tears welled in Elara's eyes. It wasn't just the words. It was the recognition of her journey, the quiet victory of every early morning. Every hour spent painting, every time she pushed through doubt, the meeting went wonderfully. The gallery owner was impressed not only by Elara's art, but by her clear vision and the passion that shone through her. A few months later, the invitations went out. Elara Vance's debut solo exhibition. The title she chose, Awakening. The night of the exhibition was a blur of nervous excitement and overwhelming joy. Her paintings, bathed in soft gallery lights, looked magnificent. They were no longer just pieces of canvas. They were fragments of her soul, meticulously crafted, each brushstroke a whisper of her journey. Friends, family, Even former colleagues filled the space, their faces lit with admiration. Liam was there too, offering a genuine, heartfelt congratulations. Elara stood among her paintings, her heart full to bursting. She saw the journey in every piece, the tentative beginnings, the struggle, the steady hand of discipline, and finally, the blossoming of her true self. She remembered the cluttered studio, the silent despair, the crushing weight of unfulfilled dreams. And then she remembered the small, deliberate steps, the early mornings, the cleaning of her space, the dedicated hours. The Aristotle quote echoing in her mind, discipline had not been a harsh master. It had been a steadfast friend. It had taken her by the hand and led her from the wilderness of someday to the vibrant reality of now. It had transformed her life, not just by bringing her artistic success, but by gifting her something far more profound, self-respect, purpose, and the unwavering belief that she was capable of shaping her own destiny. She was no longer just an office assistant dreaming of art. She was Elara Vance, the artist, standing triumphant in the glow of her hard-earned success, a living testament to the simple, profound power of showing up day after day and embracing the quiet magic of discipline. Her life, once a half-finished sketch, was now a vibrant, complete masterpiece,